funny because I was just reading my great aunt just wrote her autobiography. She's turning 100 in 2 days, and she was an educator, and she taught at Stanford and such like that, and talked about. And this was like shocking to me. It was like after World War II, education was a booming business to get into, like as a teacher. That was like a smart move, and now it's like you can't find the jobs.
When they were vilified in Wisconsin, where which happens to be where my family's from, but the University of Wisconsin-Madison is a great university,
crown jewel,
and they were attacked as thugs, these union thugs, and people accepted it and did not recall the governor. That they failed to recall him, and it's like that had to be like a turning point where it's like, when teachers are the enemy and seen as sucking at the teat of government,
right,
and not really your heroes who are working for lower pay than they would make in the private sector if they did something else. And
it's almost like good. You almost have to have strife. Like you have to have this crash with Trump. You have to have this. People have to, because otherwise prosperity is like the devil's playground.
Yeah, I mean, part of why we did all that with education in the 50s was we were really concerned about the Russians and Sputnik.
Right.
Oh my gosh, they're ahead of us scientifically.
Well, but that also, it was easier back then. There was one enemy.
Yeah,
it was us and them was one guy, or one country, or communism.
And you had two political parties, but they weren't 100% diametrically opposed to each other.
They were.
They were still two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
They didn't refuse to be seen on the same coin together.
Which is really, I thought, brought so starkly into view around like. So we have all of these seemingly impeachable offenses, but we don't have a Congress that would ever impeach.
No.
I mean, it's just, and we go back to Nixon and we go, well, obstruction of justice. That was the first article of impeachment. That'll do ya. And I was like, yeah, but the Congress was so different. Republicans were different then. And I wonder if the same correlation works on Democrats. I think our problem is that we aren't any different than we used to be. I think we're still working in an old model, and then Republicans have sort of morphed into this kind of.
I think Democrats. There's the old cliche of don't let the imperfect be the enemy of the good.
Yeah,
and I think Democrats have completely thrown that out the window. That's why we lost the election, is because people weren't willing to band behind Hillary Clinton with the understanding that one of these two people is going to be our next president. Thank you, third party candidates. Wonderful showing. Lovely to see you, but you're ineffectual. You're not going to win. It's not going to happen.
We need a 2-round system like they have in France, so that you are down to 2 candidates on election day.
Yeah, it's true.
Sorry.
Fail safe. No. We need the fail safe.
I mean, I'm sort of like, I'm so over relitigating the last election because I think there's like so much blame to go around. I mean, certainly James Comey, certainly the Clinton campaign, certainly, I mean, there's, all the Russians. I mean, I think there's so much that, the hacking. I think there's so much blame to go around. I think one of the lessons is, and this is one that the Republicans, have taken to heart, is you have to give people a real choice.
Yeah.
And you can't just be go along, get along. You can't just be like, hey, Macron won partially because he came in saying he was an outsider. And one of the things that I thought was interesting that I heard, that I read about in the last debate, was he actually attacked Le Pen for being establishment.
Yeah, he did.
Hey, your father's been doing this before you. Yeah. You've been living off this, financial tit of this thing forever, of this side. And that's what people need to realize. This whole, on the conservative side, this whole sort of Fox News round robin with government, where, Sarah Palin quits being governor of Alaska halfway into the term the day that her book deal comes through. Yeah. I mean, there's this whole wing no welfare thing that's going on right now that's sort of crazy.
Well, you were saying after World War II, there was a huge professional boom and professional culture. We don't need professionals anymore. We need celebrities.
Yeah.
That's fun.
And that is one of the things that cracks me up about, the whole Republican Party gathering behind Trump. You talk about Sarah Palin when Obama was running for his first term against McCain and Palin, and one of her big complaints that the Republican talk machine glommed onto, Obama's a celebrity. Well, and
he was an absolute unknown when he entered, when he made that speech. Nobody knew.
But he was media savvy. He knew how to work it, which in their eyes made him a celebrity. Well, what does she do? She book deal, reality show. They get a reality show host elected. Yeah. It's just how much flip flopping does it take? This is like the constant theme of this show is what will it take to get those 35% to realize the emperor has no clothes?
I just want to say one thing about celebrity candidates too, because this is really chapping my ass. Like I heard something like The Rock was going to run for president.
I was just about to say, if he runs, I will vote for him. But only if he wins the nomination. Go ahead.
Yeah, I got to say, I'm so against celebrity candidates. I'm so against. I don't care who they are. I don't care if it's Oprah. I don't care. I don't fucking care. Celebrities are not qualified to be
I want a college professor
any more than
like
Trump.
Obama, for instance.
Yeah.
Ideally, that's what we should have.
Well, someone who knows the law.
Yes, absolutely. However, if The Rock wins, I'm definitely voting for him.
Well, it's funny. I mean, the people that they're, some of the people whose names have come up for as potential Democratic, primary candidates for 2020 would be Bob Iger, head of Disney. What's wrong with that? I mean, the guy is, they've got same-sex benefits over marriage benefits and partnership benefits over at Disney. He's grown that company. He's been a visionary, certainly brought joy to the world, brought stability, he's a technocrat. You've got Mark Cuban thinking about running, particularly just to piss off Trump, if Trump's still around at that point. You've got Oprah who said, oh, my God, I didn't realize that I could run for president. But after Trump, she thought that she could.
Hey, why not?
I mean, are these things crazy?
Yes. Yes, they are.
Yes, they are. Yes.
They absolutely fucking are. Is it reality? Sure. But is it crazy? Fuck yes. We should not allowed this to become the new normal.
In a pre-Trump world, it's crazy. In a post-Trump world, I don't know.
No, it's still crazy. It's still crazy. I mean, we are paving the way for
idiocracy.
Well, not just idiocracy. I was going to say for the Cash Me Outside, How About That girl to become president. She's eligible to run in, I think, 25 years.
Who?
Good. This internet sensation who...
She's not 10, so it's less than 25 years.
No, she's 13.
Oh, okay. So you're right.
You're making me nervous right now.
She was, became an internet viral sensation for
some
for
idiot
threatening.
kid who was on Dr. Phil because she's a problem child, and she became an internet meme, and then
she'll be president.
She's a white girl who I don't know if we can say that she speaks black, but she speaks in a street lingo that is very hard to understand. Right? Cash me outside. How about that?
Yeah.
You're like, what? I'm sorry.
Oh God, love appropriators.
Well, all right. Enough talk about reality stars. But on the topic of celebrities, if we want to go in that direction, it is time for us to take a brief respite with a burst of Durst from five-time Emmy nominee Will Durst. Hey, Will.
Hey guys. Will Durst here with a few choice words about President Trump firing FBI Director James Comey with all the suddenness of a bowling ball hitting a sidewalk after a 10-story drop. Various reasons were given for the enforced departure. Comey had lost the confidence of the FBI rank and file. He didn't do a good job. He has weird hair. He passes gas in elevators and pretends it's the old lady who did it. Atrocities were committed during the Hillary Clinton email investigation, which, coming from Trump, makes the same kind of sense as New England Patriot wide receivers complaining that Tom Brady throws his passes too accurately. At first, several White House spokespeople, including Vice President Mike Pence, blamed Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein for initiating the firing, but then the president himself told NBC anchor Lester Holt that no, he was the one responsible, which sort of threw his own staffers so deep under the bus they got axle grease all over their lying little lips. Trump said one reason he fired Comey is because the guy was a big-time showboater and grandstander. Trump said that. about somebody else. You can't make stuff up like this. The irony of this statement coming from President Braggadoccio should be taken not just with a grain of salt, but an entire 15-pound Himalayan hanging salt lick. Trump said the director told him 3 times that he wasn't under investigation, which could be construed as obstructing justice and so illegal that chuckles were heard leaking out of Richard Nixon's grave, not to mention Hillary Clinton's bunker. Having the guy being investigated, firing the guy investigating him over Russian meddling, makes the 45th president seem almost as desperate as Raskolnikov, the guilty and paranoid protagonist in the book Crime and Punishment. And don't forget, he was Russian too. Coincidence? I think not. For Let's Be Treasonable, I'm Will Durst.
Thank you, Will.
Yeah, bravo.
Always nice. So let's get away from the White House for a minute, and let's talk about Congress, because they are still working on repealing and replacing Obamacare.
Oh yeah.
And Mitch McConnell has put together a group of senators, and until a last-minute addition added under protest, there were no women on the panel. It was just a bunch of old white dudes.
And still no people of color.
What a
Just a bunch
surprise.
of old white guys stomping all over our reproductive rights once again. It's just the same panel. It's just so sad. I don't even know what to say about it, honestly.
You know, the thing to remember about one of the questions that I have right now is whether you can separate out Trump from the Republican Party. Because I think there's going to be a point where Republicans are going to be like, well, he's not us. But in fact,
when it's convenient for them to say that, they will.
Yeah, and the reason that they put up with him is and the reason that they want to repeal Obamacare and replace it with wealth care is because they want to get a massive tax cut for the rich.
That's all it is.
That's their religion. That is the only thing they believe in. That's the only thing they all agree on. There are plenty of Republicans who have a gay person in their family or a gay marriage in their family, including Dick Cheney himself. But that's the one thing that they don't budge on. And, what it comes down to is serving the people that own America.
Well, but I think it's also willful ignorance. I think it was on 60 Minutes last week. They interviewed a group of folks from this town in Indiana, many of whom were Trump voters, and they were all friends with this guy who was here illegally. Mm-hmm. And it was about the whole issue of deporting people and well, we didn't think that applied, to us. He said he was going to get the bad hombres, and our friend wasn't a bad hombre. So it's, they may have a gay person in their family, but I think there's still a certain amount of willful ignorance where they're saying, well, this would never happen to me. This would never happen to my people.
Well, was that the restaurant owner?
Yeah.
Yes. And his own wife voted for Trump, and she's really surprised that her husband got deported because he had a semi-legal status. He would check in every year with immigration.
He got deported when he checked in.
Yeah.
He was doing his legal duty.
Yeah, and it's like, well, I don't know. I guess if a guy calls a people rapists, you shouldn't consider him the friend of that people. Yeah.
But I've said this before on the show. It just reminds me of every cliche about an abusive relationship.
Absolutely.
Oh well, but you should see him when he's being nice.
Yeah.
But emails.
Yeah.
What's interesting to me is Republicans up until their constituency, which they spent years appealing to their prejudices. Starting with the Southern strategy under Nixon back in '68. They were suddenly surprised that they didn't want immigration reform. Republicans on the business side, the ones who own the party and own the country, were the ones who, they want, immigration reform because they actually do like having low-cost workers. I mean, there's plenty of, in a lot of different areas, including the farms.
Yeah.
And there's a big question, too, about harvests all across the country, even in the Deep South, because it's very hard to get certain American-born white folks to
you cannot
do
get
those
them
jobs.
to do those jobs. In fact, they aren't. interested in those jobs.
I mean, they passed a law like this in Alabama like a few years ago, and they actually had these farmers talking about how it was impossible to keep guys working more than a day who were, who you think would benefit from this. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting to me that the Republicans sort of made the deal when, their constituency turned against immigrants, and especially hitching their wagon to Trump, where it's, they went the other way. I don't think that your average Republican